I heard every single word. Standing in that little storage room off the church vestibule, pressed against the wall with my hand over my mouth, I heard my future son-in-law, Quentin Devon, call my baby girl a fat pig. Not just once, 3 times. And he laughed while he said it. The wedding was supposed to start in 20 minutes. My daughter Alicia was upstairs in her dress, glowing like the sunrise, thinking she was about to marry the love of her life. And here I was, 72 years old, hiding behind boxes of church programs, listening to the man she loved destroy her with words she'd never hear. But I heard them. Lord knows I heard every last one. "I can barely look at her sometimes," Quentin said, his voice dripping with disgust. "But it'll be worth it. Once I'm in the family, once that old woman kicks the bucket, half of everything goes to Alicia, and what's Alicia's becomes mine." My heart stopped. The room started spinning. I grabbed onto a shelf to keep from falling. "Let me back up. Let me tell you how I got here, pressed against this wall, my whole world crumbling like weak old cornbread. My name is Geneva Caldwell, and 3 months ago I thought I knew exactly who my daughter was marrying. Before we continue, please tell us where you're watching from so we know how far our stories reach, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. I raised Alicia by myself after my husband Raymond passed when she was just 8 years old. Colon cancer took him fast, left me with a mortgage, a little girl, and my late mother's savings that I stretched like taffy to make ends meet. I worked 2 jobs, daytime receptionist at Dr. Morrison's dental office, weekend shifts at my sister's hair salon doing shampoos and sweeping up. But Raymond had been smart. Before he died, he'd bought 3 small properties around Atlanta with money from his trucking business, rental properties. "For Alicia's future," he'd told me, squeezing my hand from that hospital bed. "For our baby girl." Those properties appreciated over 30 years. The neighborhood gentrified. White folks moved in, paid top dollar. By the time Alicia graduated from Spelman, those 3 little houses were worth close to $2 million. Add in Raymond's life insurance that had been sitting in investment accounts, plus the money my mother left me that I'd never touched, and I was sitting on a small fortune. I never told nobody. Kept living in our same modest house in Cascade Heights. Kept driving my 2015 Honda Accord. Kept my hair appointments at my sister Valencia's shop every 2 weeks. Kept shopping at Kroger with my coupon envelope. But Alicia knew. She was the beneficiary on everything. 50% of my estate was hers. The other 50 was split between my sister Valencia's 3 kids, my nieces and nephews who'd been there for me through everything. I told Alicia the full details about 6 months ago, right around her 35th birthday. She'd been stressed about money, worried about ever affording a house in this economy. So I sat her down at my kitchen table with sweet potato pie and coffee and told her the truth. "Baby," I said, "when the Lord calls me home, you won't have to worry. You're going to be just fine." Her eyes got big as saucers when I showed her the paperwork. Then she cried. Then she hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. "Mama," she whispered, "I don't want your money. I just want you." That's my Alicia. Sweet as honey, soft heart, always seeing the best in people. Maybe too soft. She met Quentin 2 months after that conversation. At a Morehouse alumni event, she said. He was a financial consultant, drove a nice car, wore expensive cologne. Tall, handsome, smooth talker. He said all the right things, called her beautiful, told her she was the woman he'd been praying for. I wanted to like him. Lord knows I tried. But something felt off from the start. The way his eyes would flicker around a room, like he was calculating everything. The way he'd steer every conversation back to money, who had what, who was doing well, who'd made smart investments. The way he'd compliment my house and then ask pointed questions about the neighborhood property values. "Mama, you're being paranoid," Alicia said when I gently mentioned my concerns. "Not every man is after something. Quentin loves me, I watched her face when she said it, saw how much she needed it to be true. Alicia had always struggled with her weight. She was a big girl, had been since puberty. Thick thighs, round belly, soft arms, beautiful brown skin, and my grandmother's pretty eyes. But the world don't care about that. The world was cruel to her. Boys in high school called her names. Men at the grocery store made pig noises. She'd come home crying more times than I could count. "You're beautiful," I'd tell her, holding her while she sobbed. "God made you perfect exactly as you are." But those wounds run deep, real deep. So when Quentin showed up, treating her like a princess, looking at her like she hung the moon, she fell hard. Within 3 months, they were engaged. Within 5 months, they'd set a wedding date. Too fast. Way too fast. But what could I do? She was a grown woman. She was happy. Or at least, she thought she was. The wedding was at Greater Emmanuel Baptist Church, where we'd been members for 40 years. Pastor Williams was officiating. I'd spent 2 weeks making sure every detail was perfect. The flowers were white roses and hydrangeas, Alicia's favorites. The reception was at the gathering spot, with a menu featuring all her favorite foods: fried catfish, collard greens, mac and cheese, my famous peach cobbler. I'd paid for everything. Quentin's family didn't contribute a dime. His mama came to one planning meeting, looked at the budget and said, "Well, I guess when you got it like that, might as well spend it." Then she'd laughed like it was a joke. It wasn't a joke. The wedding day started perfect. April sunshine, cherry blossoms blooming, birds singing like they were in the church choir. Alicia was radiant in her dress, a beautiful ivory gown that hugged her curves and made her look like a queen. She was upstairs in the bridal suite with her bridesmaids, my sister Valencia doing last-minute touch-ups on her makeup. I was downstairs, making sure the programs were stacked right, when I realized I'd left my reading glasses in the storage room from earlier that morning. I'd been in there helping Sister Margaret organize the communion supplies. The storage room is tucked behind the vestibule, down a little hallway. You can hear everything in the vestibule from in there, but nobody outside knows you're listening. The walls are thin. I pushed the door open quietly and started looking for my glasses. That's when I heard Quentin's voice. He was in the vestibule with someone, a man whose voice I didn't recognize. I froze, my hand on a stack of boxes. "Man, you really going through with this?" the stranger said. He sounded young, amused. "Hell yeah," Quentin replied. "I've been playing this game for 8 months, not backing out now." "She's really that loaded?" "Her mama's sitting on over $3 million easy. 3 properties, investments, life insurance money. And the old lady's what, 70, 72? Give it 5, maybe 10 years, and boom, we're set." My blood turned to ice. "But dog," the stranger said, "you gotta actually be married to her. You gotta, be with her." Quentin laughed. The sound made my skin crawl. "I don't gotta do nothing but wait," he said. "Once we're married, I'll stick it out for a couple years. Keep her happy enough. Then once the old woman dies and the money clears, I'll file for divorce. Georgia's a no-fault state. I'll get half of everything, walk away rich, and never have to look at that fat pig again." There it was. Fat pig. "That's cold, man," the stranger said, but he was laughing too. "You think I want to wake up next to that every morning?" Quentin continued. "I can barely stand it now. She's always talking about having kids. Can you imagine? I'm not having kids with her. I'm not doing anything with her that I don't absolutely have to. This is business. Pure business." "She don't suspect nothing?" "Please. She's so desperate to be loved, she believes every word I say." "Oh, Alicia, you're so beautiful. Oh, Alicia, I can't wait to spend my life with you." It's pathetic how easy she is to manipulate. Her mama's the only wild card. That old woman's got a sharp eye. But what's she gonna do? She wants her daughter happy. She'll keep her mouth shut. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. Tears were streaming down my face. My baby. My sweet, precious baby girl was upstairs thinking she was about to marry her soulmate, and he was down here calling her a pig, planning to use her, planning to use us all. "You're cold-blooded," the stranger said. "I'm smart," Quentin corrected. "That's the difference between me and broke fools like you. I see an opportunity. I take it." They laughed together. Then I heard footsteps moving away, headed toward the sanctuary. I stood there in that storage room, shaking. My whole body was trembling so hard I thought my knees would give out. I grabbed onto the shelf again, fighting to breathe. What was I supposed to do? The wedding was starting in 15 minutes. Alicia was upstairs. The church was full of guests, 200 people waiting to watch my daughter marry this monster. The caterers were setting up at the reception venue. The band was probably already playing cocktail hour music. If I stopped the wedding, Alicia would be humiliated in front of everyone. Her heart would shatter. She'd be destroyed. But if I didn't stop it, she'd marry him. And he'd use her, abuse her, take everything we had, break her heart anyway, just slower, more painfully. I pressed my forehead against the cold metal shelf and prayed harder than I'd ever prayed in my life. "Lord," I whispered, "show me what to do. Please, show me how to protect my baby." And then I heard it, clear as day. Not a voice exactly, but a knowing. A certainty that settled in my chest like warm honey. Don't stop the wedding. Let him think he won. And destroy him from the inside. I stood up straight, wiped my tears, found my glasses on the shelf where I'd left them earlier. Then I walked out of that storage room with my head high and my heart full of purpose. I wasn't just a mama anymore. I was a warrior. And Quentin Devon had just made the biggest mistake of his miserable life. I walked back into that vestibule with my reading glasses in my hand and my game face on. Quentin was standing near the sanctuary doors, adjusting his bow tie in a mirror. When he saw me, he flashed that snake smile of his. "Mrs. Caldwell," he said, smooth as butter. "You look beautiful. Thank you for everything you've done to make today perfect." I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd called my daughter a fat pig not 5 minutes ago. This man who was marrying her for money. This man who thought I was just some old woman who'd keep her mouth shut. I smiled back, sweet as pie. "Quentin, baby," I said, walking up close to him. "You take care of my daughter, you hear? She's my whole world." "Of course, Mrs. Caldwell," he said, putting his hand over his heart like he meant it. "I promise you, I'll spend the rest of my life making Alicia happy." Lies. Every word was lies, but I just nodded, patted his arm. Let him think he had me fooled. "The wedding's about to start," I said. "You nervous?" "Not at all," he replied. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." "I bet you haven't," I thought. "I bet you're real sure about those $3 million. I excused myself and headed toward the sanctuary. My sister Valencia caught me in the hallway. "Girl, where you been?" she asked. "Alicia's asking for you. She wants you with her before she walks down that aisle." Valencia is 5 years younger than me, with the same round face and warm brown eyes we got from our mama. She's been my rock since Raymond died. Raised 3 good kids by herself after her husband ran off. Owns the best hair salon in Southwest Atlanta. Doesn't take mess from nobody. I grabbed her hand and pulled her into a corner. "Val," I whispered, my voice shaking. "I need to tell you something. But not here, not now. After the wedding." She looked at me hard. "Geneva, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse," I said. "But I can't. I can't stop this wedding. Not yet. I just need you to trust me." Valencia knows me better than anybody. She saw the truth in my eyes. "Whatever you need," she said quietly. "I got your back. You know that." I squeezed her hand and headed upstairs to the bridal suite. Alicia was standing by the window in her dress, looking like an angel. Her bridesmaids were around her, her cousins Tamika and Shanice, and her best friend from college, Yvette. They were all laughing, taking pictures, sipping champagne. When Alicia saw me, her whole face lit up. "Mama," she said, rushing over. "Where were you? I was worried." I looked at my baby girl. My only child. The little girl I'd rocked to sleep every night after her daddy died. The teenager I'd held when boys broke her heart. The woman who still called me every single day just to talk. And I had to let her marry a man who saw her as nothing but a paycheck. It took everything in me not to fall apart right there. "I'm here now, baby," I said, hugging her tight. "You look so beautiful. Your daddy would be so proud." She started crying, careful not to mess up her makeup. "You think so?" "I know so," I whispered. And I meant it. Raymond would have been proud of the woman she'd become. Strong, kind, loving. Raymond also would have broken Quentin's neck with his bare hands if he'd heard what I heard. The wedding started at 3 o'clock sharp. I walked down the aisle on the arm of my nephew, Terrell, Valencia's oldest boy. Took my seat in the front row, watched that church fill up with everyone we loved, church members, family, friends, Alicia's sorority sisters from Spelman. Pastor Williams stood at the altar. The groomsmen filed in. Then Quentin walked out with his best man, the same man whose voice I'd heard in the vestibule. They were both grinning. The music changed. Everyone stood up. And my baby girl came down that aisle on Valencia's arm, since her daddy wasn't here to do it. She was glowing. Absolutely glowing. Looking at Quentin like he hung the stars in the sky. I watched Quentin's face when he saw her. He smiled, reached for her hand, played his part perfectly. But I'd heard the truth. I knew what he really thought. The ceremony was beautiful. Pastor Williams talked about love and commitment and building a life together. Quentin said his vows like he meant every word. Alicia cried happy tears. When Pastor Williams said, "You may kiss the bride," and Quentin kissed my daughter, I thought I might throw up. But I clapped, smiled, took pictures, hugged them both in the receiving line. "Welcome to the family, son," I said to Quentin, loud enough for people to hear. "Thank you, Mrs. Caldwell," he replied. "I'm honored to be your son-in-law." The reception at the gathering spot was packed. The food was perfect. The music was jumping. Alicia and Quentin had their first dance to Luther Vandross's Here and Now, and everyone was crying and taking videos. I sat at my table with Valencia, my nieces and nephew, and some cousins from my mama's side. Everyone was happy. Celebrating. I couldn't eat a bite. Valencia kept looking at me. Finally, she leaned over and whispered, "Geneva, you gonna tell me what's going on?" "Not here," I said quietly. "Tomorrow. Come to my house tomorrow morning. Early. Before church." She nodded. I made it through the toasts, the cake cutting, the bouquet toss. Made it through Alicia hugging me and thanking me for giving her the most beautiful wedding. Made it through Quentin's mama, Mrs. Devon, telling me how lucky Quentin was to marry into such a well-established family. Finally, around 10 o'clock, Alicia and Quentin left for their honeymoon. 2 weeks in Jamaica, my wedding gift to them. 2 weeks that would give me time to plan. I went home that night, took off my dress, sat on my bed, and cried until I couldn't cry anymore. Then I dried my tears, got on my knees, and prayed. "Lord," I said, "I need your help. I need your guidance. Show me how to protect my child and make this right." The next morning, Valencia showed up at my house at 7:30 with coffee and a look on her face that meant business. "Talk," she said the second I opened the door. I told her everything. Every word I'd heard in that storage room. Every disgusting thing Quentin had said. By the time I finished, Valencia was pacing my kitchen like a caged tiger. That low-down, dirty... She stopped herself, took a breath. "We're telling Alicia today, right now." "No," I said firmly. "Geneva." "No, Valencia, think about it. She's on her honeymoon. She's happy. If we tell her now, it'll destroy her. And you know what? She might not even believe us. She loves him. She'll think we're lying, or we misheard, or we're trying to ruin her marriage." Valencia sat down hard. "So what do we do?" "We gather proof," I said. "Real proof. Something she can't deny. And then we expose him for exactly what he is." "What kind of proof?" I'd been thinking about that all night. "Phone records, bank statements. I want to know if he's been talking to other women. I want to know where his money comes from, if he's even really a financial consultant. I want to know everything about Quentin Devon." "How we gonna get all that?" Valencia asked. I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts, found a name I hadn't called in years. Dexter Livingston. Dexter had grown up 3 doors down from us. Used to play with Raymond when they were kids. Became a private investigator about 20 years ago. Did good work. Honest work. I'd sent him a Christmas card every year since Raymond died, and he always sent one back. "I'm calling in a favor," I said. I dialed his number. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Geneva Caldwell," his deep voice said, warm and surprised. "How you doing, lady? It's been years." "I need your help, Dexter," I said. No point in small talk. "I need you to investigate somebody. My daughter's husband." There was a pause. "You serious?" "Dead serious." "Tell me what's going on." I told him everything. When I finished, Dexter let out a low whistle. "Man, Geneva, I'm sorry, that's rough. Real rough." "Can you help me?" "You know I can," he said. "Give me his full name, date of birth if you got it, where he works, any information you have. I'll start digging." I gave him everything I knew about Quentin. It wasn't much, but it was a start. "How fast can you work?" I asked. "Depends on what I find. Give me a week, maybe 2. I'll call you as soon as I have something solid." "Thank you, Dexter." "Geneva," he said, his voice gentle. "You doing the right thing. Protecting your child. That's what mamas do." After I hung up, Valencia looked at me with new respect. "You playing chess while that fool thought you was playing checkers," she said. "I learned from the best," I replied. "Mama didn't raise no fool." For the next 2 weeks, while Alicia was in Jamaica posting happy honeymoon pictures on Facebook, I kept my routine normal. Went to church, went to my hair appointment at Valencia's shop, had Sunday dinner with family. But every night I was on the phone with Dexter getting updates, and what he found made my blood run cold. Quentin Devon wasn't a financial consultant. He'd been fired from his last 3 jobs for inappropriate conduct, sexual harassment allegations that his companies had quietly settled. He had over $80,000 in credit card debt. His car wasn't his. It was a lease he was 3 months behind on. His fancy apartment? Also behind on rent. The man was broke. Desperate. And apparently, this wasn't his first rodeo. Dexter found 2 other women. 2 other women Quentin had dated in the past 5 years. Both of them had family money. Both relationships had ended badly, with Quentin asking for loans he never paid back. One of them had filed a restraining order. "This man is a professional con artist," Dexter told me on the phone. "He targets vulnerable women from wealthy families, courts them hard, gets them to trust him, then bleeds them dry." "Does Alicia know any of this?" I asked. "I doubt it," Dexter said. "He's good at covering his tracks, real good. But Geneva, there's more." "What?" "He's still in contact with one of his exes, woman named Chantel Foster. They've been texting throughout his entire relationship with Alicia, including during the wedding. I got the phone records." My heart stopped. "What kind of texts?" "The kind that make it real clear they're more than friends," Dexter said carefully. "I can send you the screenshots." "Send them," I said. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and looked at those text messages, read every filthy word, every lie, every promise Quentin had made to this Chantel woman while he was promising my daughter forever. "Just a couple more years, baby. one message said. Then we're set for life. I promise. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark for a long time. Alicia and Quentin were coming home from Jamaica in 2 days. They were moving into the apartment Quentin had, the one he could barely afford, because they were saving money for a house they'd buy with her inheritance, after I died. I called Valencia. "You got what you need?" she asked. "Almost," I said. "But I need one more thing. I need to talk to that other woman, Chantel. I need to know exactly what Quentin told her." "How you gonna find her?" "Dexter already gave me her number," I said. "I'm calling her tomorrow." "Geneva, you sure about this? You about to open up a whole can of something." "That can's already open," I said. "I'm just making sure everybody sees what's inside." The next morning, I called Chantel Foster. She answered cautiously. "Hello?" "Ms. Foster," I said, keeping my voice steady. "My name is Geneva Caldwell. I'm Alicia Devon's mother. I believe you know my son-in-law, Quentin." There was a long, heavy silence. Then she said something that made my whole world shift. "Oh my God," Chantel whispered. "He actually married her? That fool actually went through with it?" I met Chantel Foster 3 days later at a Starbucks in Buckhead. She walked in looking nervous, checking over her shoulder like Quentin might appear at any moment. She was younger than Alicia, maybe 30. Pretty, with long braids and sharp eyes. She sat down across from me and didn't waste time. "Mrs. Caldwell," she said, "I want you to know I didn't realize he was serious about marrying your daughter. I thought it was just another one of his schemes that would fall apart." "How long have you known Quentin?" I asked. 3 years. We dated for about 8 months before I figured out what he really was." She pulled out her phone. "He told me he loved me, said we were going to get married. Then he started asking for money. Small amounts at first, then bigger. Said he had a business opportunity, needed investors. I gave him almost $15,000 before my sister made me wake up." My chest tightened. "Did you ever get it back?" "Not a penny." She showed me her phone. Text messages between her and Quentin going back months. After we broke up, he kept calling me, said he missed me. Then, about a year ago, he told me he'd found a golden goose, a woman with family money who was desperate for love. He said he was going to marry her, get access to the money, then divorce her and split everything with me. "He promised to split it with you?" "That's what he said. Told me to be patient, play along, and we'd both end up rich." She looked at me with something like shame in her eyes. "I'm not proud of this, Mrs. Caldwell. I should have warned your daughter." But I was angry. And stupid. And part of me wanted to believe he'd actually follow through for once. But he didn't. No. After the wedding, his texts changed. Started saying it would take longer than expected. Said your daughter was difficult, and he had to play his part better. Then he stopped mentioning splitting the money. Started saying he needed to cut ties with me for a while so he didn't get caught. She showed me the messages. I read them, my hands shaking. "Ms. Foster?" I said. "Would you be willing to testify to all of this, in court if necessary?" She looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Yes," she said. "He's a snake. He deserves what's coming to him. And your daughter deserves to know the truth." I left that coffee shop with everything I needed. That evening I called my lawyer, Bernard Washington. Bernard had handled Raymond's estate and had been giving me legal advice for 30 years. He was semi-retired now, but still sharp as a tack. "Geneva," he said when I explained the situation, "this is fraud, possibly even criminal fraud. If he married Alicia under false pretenses with the intent to steal from her inheritance, we can absolutely pursue legal action. I want to protect my daughter," I said. "And I want to make sure he doesn't get a dime of our money." "Here's what we do," Bernard said. "First, we need to move fast, before he establishes marital property claims. I'm going to draft documents to create a trust for Alicia's inheritance. Everything that was set to go to her in your will gets transferred to an irrevocable trust with very specific terms. He can't touch it. What about the properties? We'll transfer those into the trust too. I can have the paperwork ready by Monday. Do it, I said. But I still hadn't told Alicia. And that was the hardest part. She and Quentin came back from Jamaica on a Saturday, glowing and happy. They stopped by my house that evening to show me pictures and bring me a bottle of rum. I hugged my daughter and smiled at my son-in-law and pretended everything was fine. Because I needed a few more days. Just a few more days to make sure all the pieces were in place. On Monday, I signed the trust documents. Everything I owned now belonged to a trust that Alicia would benefit from, but only under specific conditions. Quentin's name was explicitly excluded. Even if they stayed married, he couldn't access a penny. Bernard called Alicia on Tuesday and asked her to come to his office. Said it was about updating some estate planning documents, and he needed her signature. She called me, confused. "Mama, why does Mr. Washington need to see me?" "Just some legal stuff, baby," I said. "Nothing to worry about. I'll meet you there." Wednesday afternoon, Alicia walked into Bernard Washington's office with no idea her world was about to shatter. I was already there. So was Valencia, and Dexter, and Chantel Foster. Alicia looked around, confused. "Mama, what's going on?" I took her hand, led her to a chair, sat down next to her. "Baby," I said, my voice breaking, "I need you to listen to something." Dexter pulled out a small recording device. He'd been doing surveillance for the past week. Had caught Quentin on tape, talking to his friend, the same friend from the wedding. Talking about the plan, about the money, about Alicia. We played the recording. I watched my daughter's face as she heard the man she loved call her a fat pig. Heard him laugh about manipulating her. Heard him talk about waiting for me to die so he could cash in. The color drained from her face. Her hands started shaking. "No," she whispered. "No, that's not... That can't be." Then Chantel spoke up, told her story, showed her the text messages. The promises Quentin had made, the lies he'd told. Alicia started crying, not the gentle tears from her wedding day. Deep, body-shaking sobs that came from somewhere primal. I held her while she broke apart. Valencia held her from the other side. We let her cry until she couldn't cry anymore. Finally, she looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. "You knew," she said. "At the wedding, you already knew." "I heard him in the vestibule," I said, "right before the ceremony. I wanted to stop it, baby, but I knew you wouldn't believe me without proof. I knew he'd convince you I was lying, so I had to let it happen. I had to gather evidence first." "You let me marry him," she said, her voice hollow. "I protected you," I said firmly. "I made sure he couldn't take what's yours. And now we're going to make sure he pays for what he's done." Bernard stepped in then, explained the legal situation, explained that we could pursue annulment based on fraud, explained that Quentin had violated Georgia law by entering into a marriage contract with deceitful intent. "We can also press criminal charges," Bernard said. "This is fraud, identity deception, and possibly extortion. He won't just lose the marriage, he could face jail time." Alicia looked at all of us. Then she straightened her spine, wiped her tears, and I saw my baby girl turn into a warrior right before my eyes. "I want him prosecuted," she said, her voice steel. "I want everyone to know what he did. I want him to pay for every lie." The next few months were brutal. We filed for annulment immediately. Quentin fought it at first. Tried to claim the marriage was legitimate, tried to get access to marital property. But we had evidence: phone records, text messages, witness testimony from Chantel, the recording. His lawyer took one look at everything we had and advised him to settle quietly. But Alicia didn't want quiet. She wanted justice. We took it to court, filed criminal charges for fraud and attempted theft. The DA's office was very interested once they saw the pattern. Quentin had done this to multiple women. This wasn't just about Alicia. This was about protecting other women from becoming his victims. The trial was in September, 6 months after the wedding that never should have happened. I sat in that courtroom and watched Quentin squirm on the witness stand while Bernard's colleague, a fierce young prosecutor named Tasha Riley, tore apart every lie he'd ever told, played the recordings, showed the text messages, brought Chantel Foster up to testify, brought up the other women he'd scammed. Quentin's lawyer tried to paint him as a man who'd genuinely fallen in love and made mistakes. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury took 2 hours to find him guilty on multiple counts of fraud. The judge sentenced him to 4 years in prison and ordered him to pay restitution to all his victims, including Alicia. When the gavel came down, I looked at my daughter. She was crying, but this time they were different tears. Tears of relief, of release, of justice served. We walked out of that courtroom together. Me, Alicia, Valencia, my nieces and nephew, Dexter, Bernard, even Chantel Foster, who'd become an unexpected ally in all of this. "Thank you, Baum." "Mama," Alicia whispered to me on the courthouse steps. "Thank you for protecting me." "Baby," I said, holding her face in my hands. "I'll protect you until my last breath. That's what mamas do." Before we continue, if this story resonates with you, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our next story. The months after the trial were healing time. Alicia moved back in with me for a while. We spent evenings on my porch drinking sweet tea and talking about everything. About her daddy. About pain. About trust. About rebuilding. "I should have listened to you," she said one night. "You tried to warn me." "No," I said. "You were in love. Or you thought you were. That's not wrong, baby. What he did was wrong. Not you." "I feel so stupid." "You're not stupid. You're human. And you loved with your whole heart. Don't let what he did make you afraid to love again." She looked at me. "You think I'll ever trust anyone again?" "I think you'll learn to trust yourself," I said. "And that's the most important thing." Slowly, my daughter started healing, started smiling again, started going out with friends, started living again. She also went back to school, got her MBA, started working for a nonprofit that helped women escape financial abuse, turned her pain into purpose. A year after the trial, she met someone new, a good man, a teacher named Langston Hayes who taught history at a middle school in East Point. He was kind, patient, genuine. He loved her for exactly who she was. When he asked my permission to marry her, he sat in my living room and said, "Mrs. Caldwell, I know your daughter has been hurt. I know it might be hard for you to trust anyone with her heart. But I promise you, I see her, really see her, and I'm not going anywhere." I looked into his eyes and saw the truth there. "You better not hurt her," I said, "because if you do, what I did to the last one will look like mercy." He smiled. "Yes, ma'am, I understand." They got married 2 years after the trial. Small ceremony, just family and close friends, in my backyard. Pastor Williams officiated. Alicia wore a simple white dress and looked happier than I'd ever seen her. This time, when she said her vows, they were real. This time, when I watched her kiss her husband, my heart was full of joy instead of dread. They gave me 2 beautiful grandbabies, Raymond, named after his grandfather, and Nadia, named after my mama. I get to watch them grow up. Get to spoil them rotten. Get to teach them all the things my mama taught me. As for Quentin Devon, I heard through the grapevine that he got out of prison after serving 3 years. Last I heard, he was working at a car wash in Tennessee. His reputation was destroyed. His scams were over. I don't think about him much anymore. He's not worth the energy. But I do think about the lessons I learned. I learned that protecting the people you love sometimes means doing hard things, means being patient, means being strategic, means being strong when they can't be. I learned that justice might take time, but it's worth fighting for. I learned that my daughter is stronger than either of us knew. And I learned that mothers will move mountains, cross deserts, and walk through fire to keep their babies safe. I'm 75 now. Still living in my house in Cascade Heights, still getting my hair done at Valencia's shop every 2 weeks, still making Sunday dinners for my family. But now I'm also Grandma Geneva, the woman who watches Raymond and Nadia after school, who teaches them to bake my mama's recipes, who tells them stories about their grandfather Raymond, the woman who survived, who fought, who won. People sometimes ask me if I regret letting Alicia marry Quentin, if I wish I'd stopped the wedding that day. And I tell them the truth. I wish my daughter had never been hurt. I wish she'd never had to go through that pain. But I don't regret my choices. Because if I'd stopped that wedding, Quentin would have just disappeared. Alicia would have spent the rest of her life wondering what if. She would have blamed me. Maybe never forgiven me. Instead, we gathered the truth. We faced it together. We fought together. And we won together. And now my daughter knows exactly what she's worth. Knows exactly how strong she is. Knows exactly what real love looks like. That's worth everything. Some battles you have to fight in the shadows before you can win them in the light. Some wars require patience and planning. Some victories take time. But when you're fighting for the people you love, you never give up. Never. Last Sunday, we all gathered at my house for dinner like we do every week. Alicia and Langston, the babies, Valencia and her kids, cousins, church friends. My house was full of noise and laughter and love. Alicia found me in the kitchen, putting the finishing touches on my peach cobbler. "Mama," she said, hugging me from behind, "thank you for everything. For fighting for me when I couldn't fight for myself." I turned around and held my baby's face in my hands, just like I did when she was little. "You don't ever have to thank me for loving you," I said. "That's what I was put on this earth to do." She smiled, the real smile, the one that reaches her eyes. "I love you, Mama." "I love you too, baby. Now help me get this cobbler to the table before your cousin Terrell eats all the ice cream." We laughed. We served dinner. We said grace. We ate together. And I looked around my table at all these beautiful faces, all these people I love, and I thanked God for giving me the strength to protect them, for giving me the wisdom to wait, for giving me the courage to fight, and for giving me the blessing of watching my daughter rise from the ashes of betrayal and become the woman she was always meant to be, strong, whole, loved, free. That's all for today's story. If this touched your heart, please subscribe for more stories and drop a comment. We read every single one.